We've been storing our corn all winter long for this very moment. We're trying to empty our grain bins that are filled with corn to be sold at the grain elevator. So we sell our corn at the grain elevator so that farmers can make money. The grain elevators buy our corn to be taken to ethanol plants, food processors, feed mills, and sometimes in some of the products that you use. I'm Kate. I'm a third-generation row crop farmer here in Kentucky. We are getting pretty low on our corn here in the grain bins, and so we turn on what is called a sweep auger. So a sweep auger is pretty much one long auger that moves in a perfect circle in the middle of the grain bin, and it literally sweeps up the remainder of the corn. And we're to that point on 2 of our bins, which means we've moved a lot of corn. We still have some left to move, but we have made a lot of progress. I'm going to take you all along to see what the sweep auger looks like, how it works, and how it perfectly sweeps up so much corn. And it does leave a little bit of corn, and we still have to go in and we'll use a broom and a scoop shovel and get the rest of the corn off of the ground because every kernel counts. But this cuts down on a lot of that because it can reach the ground a whole lot better and uses a lot less manpower. For those of you who have been following along, you know that our primary goal on the farm right now is to get all of the corn out of the grain bin and take it to the grain elevator depending on the contracts that we have each month. So right now we are in February and our contract is to sell about 125,000 bushels of corn. And all of those bushels are hauled by a semi-truck with a grain trailer, and we're only about 3 miles from the grain elevator, so we move a lot of corn in one day. We just started the sweep auger. We are getting down to the bottom of the grain bin, so eventually the corn will quit basically shimmying down the side of the walls and we'll have to turn on the sweep auger. A sweep auger basically just rotates in circles at the bottom of the grain bin to just break up the corn and keep it moving to the center. And from the center, we're able to pull it out of the bottom of the grain bin. So let's go take a look to see what I'm talking about. Behind me is the center of the grain bin. We're going to go inside and look at the sweep. As you can see, the sweep auger is moving and it's pulling that corn down. And honestly, I really need to go in there and help it move because not a whole lot of corn moving at the moment. So let's go in and do that. We are inside of the grain bin right now. We're in the grain bin right now and we're running the sweep. And as you can see, there's some rivets down here at the bottom and you can actually see where the sweep has already gone. And all of those mountains of corn are where the sweep still needs to go. So we have a long way to go. The corn will shimmy down the side and just spill into that auger, and then there's a door in the middle of the auger, and you can see that that's where it'll actually start dumping into. When you get to the bottom, you can always find so much heavy trash because that's where all of the trash goes. It goes to the bottom. You can see that there's a lot of corn stubble, corn stalk. Yesterday, we were able to finish unloading our first grain bin. So I'm going to take you guys inside and see what it looks like all cleaned out. And whenever I say cleaned out, I mean all of the mountains of corn are gone, but we're still going to have to go in with a broom and get the remainder of that corn out. that I'm standing here on the grain bin floor. Right here you can get a good up close look at this sweep auger. And this auger went all the way around this grain bin. You can kind of see where it went in a circle to get all of the corn out. So now we will come in here with a scoop shovel and a broom, and we'll get the remainder of this corn out because every kernel counts. Cannot leave any leftover corn in here. We want to take it to the grain elevator and get paid for it. And now, since we finished the first grain bin, we've started up the second sweep auger. So let's go check that one out and see how much corn that we've already gotten out of it. See, it goes right there in the center of the grain bin. There's a door right there, and that corn goes underneath of the grain bin and attaches to the main pit screw, which allows it to move up the leg and into the primary tank where I'm loading the trucks with corn. We do have our light on in here, so it's a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. But as you can see, we have the sweep auger running in grain bin number 2 now. So now we're trying to get the rest of this corn out. This is a great representation of how one half is completely cleaned out because of the sweep auger and the other side still needs to be swept. And I think it needs a little bit of help, so we're gonna go over there and just give it a little bit of a nudge to get it up in the mound of corn. And this grain bin doesn't really have as flat of a floor as the first one that we did yesterday, so you kind of have to get in and help the sweep auger push along. It moves by a wheel, and sometimes that wheel will get stuck in a dip and you have to go in and just press it and push it up to the mound of corn. And this right here is the wheel that moves the sweep auger, and you can see that if it ever gets stuck or in a little dip, it'll just quit spinning. Or no, it won't quit spinning, it'll just quit moving and get stuck. So also know that this is not like the greatest mask to try to use, but this is all that I have down here right now, and my mission for the weekend is to actually go get a good mask to protect myself from the grain dust. But for right now, this is going to have to do. So our sweep is in fact stuck again, so we're gonna go give it another shove. And now I'm just going around the edges to get the corn out of each of the grooves that are in the grain bin, just to make it easier to sweep out whenever that time comes tomorrow. Shoveling corn makes for a pretty good workout, if I do say so myself. truck just pulled up, so we better go load them. The sweep has pretty much done all that it can do, so the next step is going to be taking a scoop shovel and a broom and pushing all of that corn to the center of the auger, just like you can see right there. It is so satisfying whenever you've been hauling corn and then you finally reach the bottom of the grain bin. The two empty grain bins held about 40,000 bushels each, so in total that's 80,000 bushels out of our grain storage facility and at the grain elevator. But we still have several bushels to go because we have some grain bins that are still full. We definitely aren't perfect on our farm, but we always try to wear masks whenever we're inside of the grain bin and try our best to practice safety whenever we can. We've made quite a bit of progress with our broom, and there's hardly any kernels of corn left in this grain bin. And that is exactly what we want. We have a clean floor and all of our kernels are at the grain elevator, which means we got paid for them. Thanks for following along, and make sure you subscribe for more farming content.